So in my last video, I mentioned that the DLC for Spider-Man 2 was canceled. Now we were talking about the fact that the game was coming to PC. The conversation has pretty much moved to the point where this is probably the complete version of the game, or more than likely, right? And then Insomniac came out in a blog post and confirmed this. So I started to wonder, am I crazy? I knew that somewhere there was DLC. What in the world happened? Apparently, the DLC conversation came from the Insomniac leaks. If you go on Google Images and just type Spider-Man 2 content roadmap, you're going to see pictures of it plastered everywhere. This is where we knew that, there was the Venom game also in, the works. We also saw that there was the X-Men game possibly coming and potentially a new IP down the road. And, it was very interesting to see all of that. So that's where a lot of people knew, or I guess suspected, that there was going to be some kind of a story DLC. In fact, I think there were names to it, to some of these. They had already put names and put the dates where these things were probably supposed to be coming out. And you could find it all over the web. So that's probably where, we got this information from. Now, some people have also said, well, if it wasn't announced, then, was it supposed to be a thing? And, honestly, in fairness, you can say, sure, in a technical sense, it was never announced, but there were many things that were never announced that we're seeing now. So however you want to shake it, it appears to me that the game's expenses were just so high that DLC was just not in the question. You just can't shake it anyhow. I mean, you really have to acknowledge that this was a super expensive game. If I'm looking here on this image here, there's something called Glorious Sights. I don't know what this is, but you could see there was a beetle infestation, extreme carnage, and Spider-Verse anomaly. These seem to have been something that was being planned and something that was in the works to come out for fans. But it's okay. Like I said, when a company is going through financial challenges, they really have to adapt. And this is why I tell gamers all the time that it's very important that whenever we're talking about video games, we look at the number side, because the number side really give you a lot of clarity. Gone are the days when we used to be disappointed because, some game got canceled, or disappointed because some DLC didn't launch, when for the most part, we haven't seen, in terms of what some context about what was going on. Now, this brings Marvel Spider-Man 2 into a very interesting spot, ladies and gentlemen. I, for the most part, like the fact that Insomniac is taking the reins and making this game. However, their Spider-Man 2 game had its own challenges. From a technical perspective, you can give the game an 80, 85 out of 100 because it had bugs. Compared to 2018, 2018 was pretty much a pristine launch, so the expectation that we have from Insomniac, is kind of up there. But still, there's just some fanfare that just wasn't done for Spider-Man. I mean, if you're a Spider-Man fan and you actually played this game, you'll know that MJ Watson being in this story and the developers doubling down on her being in this particular story in this capacity is highly problematic. And I say it's highly problematic because the world and the story and this particular, game introduced Silver Sable and also made an entire big story about Yuri. Sorry, I don't know why I said Jury. Am I playing Street Fighter? Now, these two characters, Silver Sable and Yuri, were actually built up within the first game. I strongly believe that they would have probably taken, the best approach in highlighting these characters, and not only from just highlighting the characters from a lore perspective, but also from a mechanics perspective. Now, I get it. Having a developer make another game where the character, has better fighting skills and all of the above is a little challenging, but, it's slightly easier, to already take existing mechanics with MJ and her stealth thing, add a little zapper gun to it. I mean, that was already basically a reuse of mechanics. So when Brian Intihar said, which is going to be a little OP, and then he said, it's okay, let's go ahead and do it, I don't care. I was laughing because, as a wannabe developer, I was like, well, that's kind of convenient because that's mechanics that already exist within the game. It would have been much more impressive if they had maybe on top of Venom added another playable character to the mix. That's where I think, it would have been super impressive, not necessarily MJ just being this OP character with the zapper gun. But I digress. There are so many things that we can also talk about in this regard. But when you kind of filter it down, you can say that Silver Sable would have really, in my opinion, showed up as a really solid character. How would you interpret her fight style? Yuri, we got to see her actually fight against Spider-Man, so as a weapon-based character? What will be her limitations? How is her interaction with the Spider crew going to go? Is Peter going to be able to say, hey, remember your oaths to serve and to protect? How are you going to deal with criminals now? You know, join me in this mission. You know, I mean, yeah, they kind of tussled and all that. That's fine. I mean, Batman and Catwoman, they tussled. There was Felicia. If they wanted to remove Felicia from the picture, there's also that option that they could have brought in Black Cat, as in, you know, kind of like this mirror to Catwoman in a sense, since they followed the inspiration of the Arkham games. There was just so much that could be done for this game, and I'm quite surprised that the developers did not take that approach. But by and large, I think if the game had actually burst out of the, you know, window with a lot more sales, I think the game would have probably had its DLC. And to be honest, what held this game back? It's being locked to one ecosystem for such a long time. Like, if you really want to make your game successful, you can't afford to do that. Look at Elden Ring. We don't already play the DLC for Elden Ring. I mean, it was a fun DLC. It was a $35 DLC. I was happy to pay for it. I know 2 copies of Elden Ring, one on my PS5, and one on my PC, and I bought my DLC on the PS5. Wonderful, game. Game was available everywhere. If you wanted to play on Xbox, PC, or PlayStation, hey, nobody was, mad at you. If anything, they could have probably maybe implemented a possible cross-save for people like me. I'm not modding the game in any way, so that would have really, really rocked if I could actually do that. But I think they really did miss out on this. I think they overestimated what could really happen by selling this game on a console base that was pretty much around 60% or maybe a little more of what the PlayStation console base was at the time in 2018 when they launched the 2018 game. I think this miscalculation really did do this game in. And holding it back after the 300 and something million it cost to develop it would have not made any sense for maybe more consoles to sell. So I think this Marvel Spider-Man 2, compared to its predecessor, is just not the game that PlayStation intended to see its performance in this way. But again, it is what it is. We have to go with the flow now. We got to see what's going on, what they're going to do next in the Insomniac pipeline, how they're going to bring out another game, how that game is going to resonate. The Wolverine game, are they going to do a PC launch? Are they going to do a 6-month exclusive? I think it'll be healthy for them to do so, but we'll talk about that in a separate video. So thanks so much for watching. Let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. I really appreciate you guys' time and audience, and hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.